Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of Sun Lakes. This is your March 2023 administration update. Your hosts, Jason Ewalls and myself, Christopher Mitchell, in beautiful snow-capped mountain Banning. Jason, they say it was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Jason is still the assistant general manager, helping me out, helping the community out, and he's also the recreation interim recreation director. We had a candidate, I think you may have heard in the board updates or at the delegates. We had a candidate that was set to start. Unfortunately, that candidate has bowed out to pursue a higher paycheck elsewhere. And so we will be, starting the recruitment over. And so bear with us on that. We've got a lot of information for today's meeting or update with you. But first, we're going to kick it off. Jason usually does the sub-associations at the end, but this time we're going to move the sub-associations up to the beginning. A lot of stuff going on there. So, Jason, what do we got?
Thank you, Chris. Yes, appreciate it. A lot of going on the subs, just like with the master. Always busy, especially during election season. The subs, just like the master, going through elections right now. Theirs are about a month earlier, so their meetings happen in March. With Lakeside, their meeting is on Friday, March 24th at 1:30 p.m. in the multi-purpose room of the main clubhouse. Now, all the ballots have gone out, so you should have received them. I'd like to ask that you please sign the front of the envelope once you fill that out and return it. Right now, we are about 10 short of reaching quorum. So we'll need 10 more ballots coming in before the 23rd of March. So make sure you get them in. If you do not have a ballot, please reach out to myself or your district delegate or your one of your board members. They can get you in contact with the right steps to get a new ballot. With Lakeside 2, again, their meeting is on March 23rd of this month. That'll be at 3:30 p.m. in the multi-purpose room. And again, we're just a little short of quorum there. I think we're about 7 away. We have 62. We need about 69. So make sure you get those in. And again, make sure you sign the front of the envelope. That's very important. Also with Lakeside, we have painting. Right now, it's about 3/4 of the way done. They did get slowed down and backed up due to the weather. They lost a few weeks there. Actually, probably close to almost the entire month of January. So bear with us there. We are getting that done. Again, if you have any questions or concerns or if there's any issues, please contact myself or the operations department. Now with Fairway Villas, their election is coming up next week. It'll be on March 14th in the multi-purpose room at 2 p.m. Now they have reached quorum. So thank you to all the residents of Fairway Villas for getting those ballots in. We have reached quorum there. Just please show up to the meeting at 2 p.m. on the 14th. With the restrooms in Fairway Villas, the board did approve the work to do the refresh on the pool restrooms. That work has begun and is expected to finish next week. So that kind of rounds out some of the projects and the big things going on in the subs right now.
Very busy time in the sub-associations. So, Jason, since we're talking about elections, do you have any updates on the Master Association elections?
I do. Thank you, Chris. As you know, Master, their election is in April. And it'll actually be Wednesday, April 12th. Now, that meeting will start at 9 a.m. in the ballroom. Your ballots will be mailed out March 10th. So this Friday, this is being filmed here on the 7th. Keep an eye out for those coming up. You should see them next week. They are a lot more lengthy than the sub ballot. So, again, make sure you get those in and sign the outside of that envelope. With that, again, you can turn it in that Wednesday morning if you don't want to mail it. If you kind of wait till the last minute, just make sure you bring it into the ballroom before 9 a.m. Mm-hmm. They will close it at 9 a.m. So again, mail them in if you can get them done early. If not, and you wait till the last minute, which is okay, it happens, but make sure you get it to the ballroom by 9 a.m. And that kind of rounds out the elections coming up, Chris.
Okay, so at this point, we're going to have a flashy update. A did you know from administration. I know Hernan and the Good Day Sun Lakes team can drop a graphic on that. Did you know for this one is conflict of interest. Some comments were made and some members have reached out to us. Concern is there a conflict of interest having a management company here on site at the association? And so, Jason, this is a concern that was brought up, and maybe you can, and we can tag team on this. Some of the things that we're doing and that management company and as certified managers do to prevent that?
Yeah, well, we have two big boards that kind of govern our industry per se. Here in California, we have the Community Associations of Manager, California Association of Certified Managers.
There you go.
You have that, which is more just to California, because here in California we do have a lot more rules and restrictions when it comes to CIDs or common interest developments.
We do.
We also have CAI, which is managed by CAAM-ICB, which is a managing board, a board for certified managers. And so with that, they have a lot of education and continuing education to where we do have to follow up on, we have 16 hours a year, I believe is what we have to do to keep our designations. And within there, they lay out a lot of the ethics and the standards that we as managers come into conflicts of every day and how we deal with them.
That is, and it's an international board, the CAI, and so internationally, those guidelines. And so one of the things, they say that the agent for an HOA corporation, that they must represent the association, and they must ensure that the decisions or the representations that we do as certified managers are in the best interest of the community association in mind. And we're going to put some slides up for you that talk about, for example, the CAAM-ICB that we talked about, the standards of professional conduct. And in there it talks about promptly disclose to the client association any actual or potential conflicts of interest that may involve the manager. Also on the next slide is, as Jason talked about, the California Association of Community Managers, their professional standards of practice and identifying conflict of interest. And then on top of that, as an active CPA, certified public accountant, we're required to do ethics courses every 2 years for the renewal. And so that's an additional item that we do. And so I just want to assure the members that there's a concern about conflict of interest. They can always call it out to say, Jason, you invested in grass growing company, and you'd have to identify that. And there's other things. But, this is just not unique to managers. Any agent, your lawyer, your stockbroker, your financial planner all follow rules and regulations. They also have the professional conduct that they must adhere to because conflicts do come up. And how do you avoid those conflicts? How do you work through them? So this is not unique, not only for HOAs in the CPA world where I was. Not unique. Those happen. How do you deal with those? In government, how do you deal with those? And so I just want to reassure the members that there is not a conflict of interest to have a management company as an agent for your association or any association. Any further comments or questions, please refer those to Jason and myself. We'll be glad to discuss those with you if you wish. And so right now, I am going to give you an update. It's been a while. We have a lot of projects that are going on. And so the Good Day Sun Lakes team has allotted me several minutes to give you updates on the projects. As you can see, I have a nice little worksheet. The goal of this worksheet that I'm doing is not only this is given to the board of directors, we talk about it at several committees as well. Finance Advisory Committee, talking to the Procurement Advisory Committee, all those committees again, and from Restaurant Lounge, Recreation. Remember, all the committees support the board in their efforts to govern the association. So let me start off with the North Clubhouse tennis court conversion to pickleball court. Jason was on it. Jason was out there playing. I'm just kidding, but it is completed. Play can occur on it. I think there's just a few minor things that the refrigerator or something that's coming.
Benches are coming. Yep.
Gate 1 and 2 fountain conversion. So this is a big deal as the association can now reactivate those fountains. But as you know, I've talked about an open session. The board is looking at acquiring quotes for a new or rebuilt system. The new one, of course, a lot more money. We don't know what's going to happen long term with Sun Lakes Boulevard. Are there going to be changes to that would affect our fountains? And so those are items that are being considered then versus a rebuilt, cheaper. There's a smaller warranty on that, but it gets them activated and again, less cost. Clubhouse, the main clubhouse carpet install, that is scheduled for March 26th. Linda, who is in the recreation department, as well as the interim recreation director, Jason Ewalls, has been talking to several clubs committees groups to ensure that they're able to move. The 26th of March was chosen because the manufacturer actually manufactured it correctly. The vendor who will be installing it will be evaluating it. And also that is the prime week that it doesn't affect a lot of things going on. We have Easter in April, a lot of stuff going on in April. So we are crossing our fingers that we can start on the 26th. Now the lounge expansion, questions on that. We're in the design phase only. And as a reminder, I got a couple questions. I'll be responding through email. That, do you have a cost? Do you have a cost? The costs have not been developed yet, because for the last 2 years, the designs have gone back and forth of we want this, until the board has decided this is the final one I'm going to want, or maybe final plus option A and B, then you can cost it out. It really doesn't, it's ineffective to send something out, make a change, send something out, make a change, things constantly going back and forth. You need to have the final decision of what you want. Now, that doesn't mean, oh, I wanted this type of wood or I wanted this type of grass. That comes after we can price those options out. It's really about the construction. Are we going to develop it out onto the veranda? Are we keeping it within the footprint so it doesn't affect the parking? These are all things that the board is looking at. Once the final layout that they feel is the best one, that they make the decision on, then we can get cost estimates on. Then we can come back and evaluate that. So that is the process we're going through. The POS tablets should hopefully be implemented in April. The POS system was upgraded. Was updated. Members might remember watching those old budget committee meetings where we were trying to get an upgraded POS system that would do more for us. That board at the time denied it and instead chose to just upgrade the current ClubSoft Club Essentials platform. In it, it changes out, well, again, what we're going to be rolling out the app for that. But these are all tied to the POS system. POS system was upgraded. Our team members are utilizing it, but there have been some hiccups. Training. Do they understand the layout? It's like going from a DOS system to a Windows system, if you might remember that in all of our careers. Hey, it took a little time to get used to this new interface. That is going on. And before we throw out iPads and start having issues with why is it not syncing, why I don't understand, we want to make sure our team members are comfortable and able to perform it on the existing POS system. Once that's achieved, we can move on with the iPads. The landscape our request for proposal has been issued in conjunction with the board and the procurement advisory committee. The walkthrough will occur on March 13th on Monday. Reserve items for 2023 and 2024. And so the board has, again, last year the board set the budget for what they felt should be projects that should happen in the reserve. Using the repair and replacement reserve fund. Now this year as we start off, we look through what things can be deferred, what things are we not going to be able to get because of supply chain issues. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, even though the pandemic is over, we are still having supply chain issues. For example, John Deere, Toro, those people that make the equipment for the golf course, they're still 9 months to 12 months out from order date. And so we have to plan can these items be deferred? Can we place the order now with the expectation of it coming in next year? We're working with the board. We've actually done some walkthroughs with the board to go look at the different sites. And so that's ongoing. The 2024 plan then will be worked on with the Finance Advisory Committee during the budget process, as well as through the board's direction. Sandwedge Roof, the project began on Monday the 5th, or Sunday the 5th, one of those days. It started, let's just say. They are working through that. Breakfast, as a reminder, will be served in the restaurant Tuesday through Saturday, 8 to 11 a.m. The project is expected to last 4 to 6 weeks. If it is sunny, like it is in Philadelphia, and beautiful, then we're going to get through that job very quickly. If there's rain or other weather issues, that project will be delayed, and that's why we gave the 4 to 6 weeks. Not to excite everyone that 4 weeks and then it's not open. 4 to 6 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. The ballroom roof has started with leak repairs. That project is 3 to 4 weeks to complete. Again, depending on the weather. If we get bad weather, the project has to slow. Championship fairway Championship fairway bunkers on holes 1 through 9. Now the board approved the project just for holes 1 through 9 to work on the fairway bunkers. As a reminder, this is a continuation of what started last year with the green side bunkers. This was approved in January. Work has begun to renovate the bunkers through holes 1 through 9. Again, we'll fix the drainage. It will fix, they'll install a new liner and then fill with sand. Play will continue on the course, as I've stated in last board meeting as well as the delegates meeting. Brian is doing a great job moving the tee boxes ahead of the construction to ensure that the the vendor does not get hit by stray golf balls. The South Clubhouse dehumidifier, that project is under review by the board. Mr. Schleiden is acquiring quotes for that. That is an emergency item that needs to be repaired, replaced. As you might recall, if you've gone down to the South Clubhouse, you see the water pooling on the windows, on the wood, in the sills. Those are some concerns that we have, that it could damage the infrastructure of the South Clubhouse. So we are working on that. No timeline yet. We will be getting back to you with an update. The road project. That project is the RFP will be issued at the end of March, and we're looking for a July-August timeframe to begin the project. The South Clubhouse spa replaster. The board is evaluating the project and should be approved this month for start time to start shortly. We will update you probably at the open session in March. North Clubhouse spa replaster and deck seal. That is being evaluated right now, and we're looking to, while the pool is closed, to work on that. And so more information to come. The board is evaluating quotes on that. And lastly, 2 projects that are probably going to be targeting the fourth quarter of this year. Phone system. This was identified in the past as a need to track calls, incoming, outgoing, call length, to better support customer service management. The board is on board with it. I believe Randy Robbins has been talking about that. We've been working with him and some of his contacts in his past to see potential vendors that we can use. So we first have to identify, scope of work, what are we looking for, and the cost of that. And so that is still in the planning process. And then finally, the camera system access control. Looking to expand that for the entire association. In the past, the association has only focused on a few things: RV lot, clubhouse, gate 1, gate 2, and has never done a full system. And so what we ended up with in the past, and this goes back many years, you have each RV has their own little system. Clubhouse has their own little system. The gate has their own little system. What we need is an integrated system for all. Makes it easy then for Jason and myself to pull video as needed, to download that video, and then also to observe what's happening. There's a lot of areas of incursion on the north side that we've had, the RV lot, gate 6, and we need some better equipment down there, as well as the systems that can identify when somebody is jumping over, or identify there's movement that can then alert Securitas. So that right now is an update on all the projects we have. There's a lot more going on, but this is just key items that the association has asked about, or that we are working on with the board of directors. And so that is the project update. Jason, what do we have for a safety update for this month?
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Unfortunately, we had an issue where we had a homeowner who got hit by a car. Someone, running a stop sign and speeding through the community. Not paying attention. And we've had that happen. We've had close calls in the past. Unfortunately, this time it ended up in a not good situation. With that, the board is taking this highly on their radar, and they have asked the safety committee to do a safety analysis of the roadways in the association and look at where they see that we can improve some kind of safety within the community. So with that, the committee is going to be looking at lighted stop signs, installing a lighted crosswalk at
Yes.
the Riviera
Yep.
and Country Club crosswalk, amongst other things like speed humps. I know Bay Hill has been an issue, so running down there maybe a speed hump or two. So the safety committee is looking at that, and we'll get back with the recommendation to the board, so that way we can implement something in hopes to keep our residents safer.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, I know Beverly Simmons has been championing
Right.
that, and at the whole board as well. And I think with the Safety Advisory Committee taking a look at it, this has moved to the front. We're also trying to, again, work with City of Banning. We had in the past met with the police chief, Hamner, about a year and a half ago, talking about patrol services. We'll be having another meeting to bring that back. I'll also be reaching out to the Highway Patrol, because Highway Patrol does that for associations like Coda de Casa and others. What does that cost? And so those are some of the things look to get updated. The updates will be forthcoming. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a quick presentation on some of the food and beverage items. This has been a topic for several months, and so we've been reviewing that with the board and the management team. And there are a couple of things I wanted to point out that have occurred over the past and that affect the food and beverage operations. So on the next slide, you're going to see impacts and obstacles. And there are several impacts and obstacles that we face. There we have COVID, and I think many people sometimes forget that the years of 2020, 2021, and 2022 were really affected by COVID, and that affected the whole operations. Also, we have seen an increase in food and beverage options in Banning and Beaumont. And what these options do, they provide the choices for the members. It's great for the members. You can go see a taste of something different. You don't have to continue to go to one place. But on the opposite side, what it does is that it kind of makes Sun Lakes, where we used to be the only game in town, we're no longer the only game in town. Another impact that we're facing and that members face is disposable income has declined for many residents. This affects their ability to visit the restaurant frequently. We've seen this and I'll go over a little later in the presentation about this, but this does have an impact that I think sometimes members forget. And then lastly, past board decisions that impact food and beverage operations. And I wanted to cover some of those to educate the membership on some things that happened in the past and that the impact that we're still feeling today. And so on the next slide, we're going to start off with a little timeline that I've done. And basically what this is looking from 2019 to 2022 and the impacts that occurred during that time from decisions, COVID, etc. So as the timeline says, decisions and COVID. 2019, a key impact that occurred. The board at that time chose to renovate the ballroom, the restaurant, the lounge, the carpeting, the paint, etc. Members during that time might remember that this event where it closed down the restaurant several times during the year. Even though the operational plan was developed in 2018 as the budget process, and again, First Service works with the board of directors laying out the budgets, and those budgets must be completed for 2019. That budget had to be completed in 2018. And so there's a plan of fully operational, moving forward, First Service management team and the board working together. But what occurred later, after that budget was approved, is the board chose to begin a renovation project, a refresh project, for that main clubhouse. And there was a warning. Sherry Wood, the food and beverage director at that time, did warn the board that the budget that had been laid out will not be achieved because of the frequent closures that will occur. And these closures did have an impact. Revenue fell because we weren't open. The board authorized staff to stay working and helped with the vendors moving furniture, etc. This meant that the costs remained constant, but the revenue declined. And this did hurt the association. It started to hurt the cash flow as well, and the cash reserves that we had. Now, When I say cash reserves, those are the cash reserves in the operating fund. And with those losses that occurred in 2019, that did have an impact that would affect the association in the future years. So in 2020, the pandemic hits. Sales slow. We begin to see that in January and February as people are worried with the news that they're hearing that there's a mysterious virus out there killing people, making people sick. And we started to see the attendance in the restaurant decline. You might remember March 2020, we got the governor's order to shut down and to reduce, not shut down, but shut down full service and start reducing our service level. That meant tables had to be separated. People, where we could normally accommodate 60, 80 people, we were then asked to reduce our space, our usable space, our service space, and that had an impact on revenue. What also occurred as this time is we're seeing revenues decline. People aren't attending. We have these restrictions from the Department of Health. We, as First Service Management, return to the board and state that we have an issue. This loss is occurring. It's unsustainable, and we need to close. And those conversations were going on May and June between First Service and the board of directors at Sun Lakes. The board did decide to close. It made a decision in June, and the facility was shut down from July to October. Now the board did ask that we reopen to go orders, and that occurred November and December, but really didn't catch on, and it didn't help the revenue situation. And so again, now you see 2019, 2020, from decisions on the renovation to a pandemic, we're behind the eight ball, so to speak. We've not had the revenue that we expected, and going forward, this has hurt the business model that we've had in the restaurant. And 2020, we move forward. In the pandemic, there's a slowdown. There's hope. There's a vaccine available. People are starting to desire to come out of their homes, socialize again. But here, we now had the issue with recruitment. You might remember I did the presentation on this back in 2021 talking about the difficulty of bringing staff on. We couldn't find adequate staff because wages were going up. Inflation was hitting. The free money that had been given in 2020 and in 2021, people didn't want to come to work. And granted, people were scared to come back to work. We can understand that. But that made it difficult for the operation to be successful. And what we had to do is, with the help of the board of directors, we had to raise the starting wages for the restaurant to try to entice people to come work for Sun Lakes. And so, again, another difficult year, can't fully reopen. We're starting on the right path. We're working. We have a new executive chef that we brought in, Chef Noe, who had worked with Queen Mary and had great experience. We had great plans of rolling out a new menu. Thomas came back to work with us. We were looking that 2021 was going to be the start of, hey, 2022 is going to be great. We roll on to 2022. And this year began on a sad note with the executive chef passing away due to COVID. This did delay the plans for the new menu. But we were able to find Chef Chris Rubino. I was able to start in May. Thomas was still here, and so we were coming out of, again, the pandemic, hiring. We were being able to get more successful. The starting wage of $16 did entice people to come back, but we still had high turnover. And so in 2022, it's still a little chaotic in the beginning. Again, losing that executive chef, Noe, restarting with a new chef, redoing a new menu. We had front of the house manager. We went through two of them. Joe Johnson is here, and he came in later on in that year. But there was a little bit of chaos that was going on. And so we saw revenues did not rise as fast as costs. Again, inflation was hitting. And you see this, members. You go to the grocery store, the eggs, bacon, bread, etc. those costs were rising, and those did affect what our operations were in 2022. There were no price changes for the food menu. The menu was developed in May 2022 and approved by the board of directors. There were no further price changes. And the last alcohol change that we had, the price of alcohol, was in 2021 when we reopened. So going forward, the process and procedures were in place prior to the pandemic. These processes and procedures were developed. Sherry Wood, also our FirstService internal audit group, developed these processes and procedures. But again, that staff turnover, not being able to retain staff, and really goes back to the training. You're breathing, you're able to work, get on the floor and start working. And that hurt our training program as well. And so in the fourth quarter of 2022, we returned to that training, returned to getting back to the procedures and the processes that we had early on in 2019 and 2020. A new menu and prices will be set that meet the industry standards. That is coming. And this board, I'm really happy that they've partnered with FirstService and working to say, we're not going to get in of, we got to have these items on the menu and get into the minutia of all that. Really, it's setting the expectation of we're going to meet these revenue goals. Our cost of goods sold are going to meet the industry percentage that they should be at. And that has helped. And I think we'll see that big difference going forward into 2023. And so on to the next slide. Let's talk about increased choices for members. And I hope you can see this on the screen. This is a Google map of February 2016. What Banning, Beaumont, this area around Sun Lakes looked like. And you see those empty lots. There were no restaurants there. There was no Panera, all of that. Nothing. But if you look at the next slide, another aerial shot in March of 2023, look at the difference. Look at the improvement that has been done to provide everyone different eating establishments have come in and provide everyone a different taste, different opportunity to have something different to eat. But that's good, and that helps the members, that helps the cities. But Sun Lakes, it's hurt a little bit. And so let's go on to the next slide. So what does that mean, the increased choices for members? Well, as you saw, in 6 years, the retail area around Sun Lakes has transformed. Additional food options like Chipotle, Waba Grill, etc., Raising Cane's Chicken, those have come in. And what that does is that increases the competition and pulls members from using the facility here. It also impacts the competition for new staff. And we saw this in 2022 and 2021 as more competition, Starbucks paying $19 an hour, other establishments paying more, and we were competing against that. So it's good and bad. Great for the member because you have different options. Bad for a restaurant trying to compete not only for the revenue dollars, but the recruitment. Now, one thing that's very important is national chains always have better purchasing power. So at Sun Lakes, we have to deal with Cisco or US Foods and those other vendors to try to get the best price based on our volume. Meanwhile, you look at an In-N-Out Burger, a Panera, they have national purchasing power, and they can dictate some of the prices that they get because the suppliers want to work with them. And so we have to take that into account as well, as that impacts our restaurant. And a key thing is outside businesses can capture more customers that are either they're local, they're here stopping by, or they're transitory, they're moving through this pass here to go to Coachella Valley or vice versa, heading to Riverside, Los Angeles, using via the 10. And so they'll see a restaurant there, hey, great, I'll stop by there, go to In-N-Out Burger, get something, back on the road. And what that is that those businesses can capture more customers. That's a little more difficult here at Sun Lakes, where we are a closed customer base. And that's a key thing to remember is that we're not open to the outside. I can't, if I lose a customer in here, that really hurts. I lose a customer. I can't regain that customer back. You know, if Starbucks messes up on your drink, Okay, you won't go to that Starbucks, but somebody else probably will, and they'll make up that lost customer. So it's a little more difficult. And then also on to the next slide, I want to talk about discretionary income. Discretionary income decline, and this is from the California Economic Outlook report that was issued by the Bank of the West. And a key thing is, well, although inflation affects everyone, low-income households are hit particularly hard. Now, you're going to say, and I understand, we're not low income, and you're exactly right. But if you look at where they're saying a low-income household is, income under $50,000 per year. That does affect many of our residents who live here who are making, through pensions, through Social Security, less than $50,000 a year. And so it does affect Sun Lakes, a large majority. And so this article talks about that data from the U.S. Census Bureau Pulse Survey reveals 58.8% of California households with income under $50,000 per year are having a somewhat or very difficult time paying ordinary household expenses. And this was as of July. This is something that we forget sometimes, that we talk about for our members. They may not have the free cash, the free disposable income to spend often as they did in the past. And we have to take that into account, that it's just not simply a increased marketing campaign, but there's also other issues. And so discretionary income does play a part in this. And it warns that if consumer inflation picks up or remains high, low-income households will have no choice but to cut back sharply on their discretionary spending. So simply put, anyone on a fixed income will see their discretionary income decline. And that's what we're seeing here in Sun Lakes. And sometimes, again, people forget about that there's several impacts that are going on, just not one simple thing. So the next slide talks about what we should focus on in 2023. As I alluded to earlier, the financial timeline, I invite the members actually to go back onto our website and look at a presentation that Linda Spalding, the then treasurer of the board, did for the delegate assembly in 2021, November of 2021. And she laid out this information about what was happening with the restaurant, the sales, the decisions made. But again, we want to remind the members of what happened on the financial aspect. Now, what we should focus on in 2023, the board changed the previous policy of setting prices and food offerings. Again, this is a partnership where the board is saying, hey, we need to achieve these industry levels of cost of goods sold. We need to achieve these revenue goals. And that's key. That's key to a successful business, is setting these goals, setting these metrics to use. And that is how I think going forward we'll be successful working with the board on this, is setting these goals, and as well as working with the analysis group. Their evaluation of the system as well will help. I think we also need to focus on the data. 2022 data has showed that members' peak times are lunch and dinner. We need to adapt to that reality. I did a presentation in, I believe it was March of the delegates meeting, talking about how it changed. The demographics are changing, but also the time of day that members come to eat. It used to be breakfast. 2016, 2017, breakfast was the key. And it's been declining to more of a lunch and dinner, again, more social. And a key thing we have to remember is we cannot be everything to everyone. This is hard. Members that have lived here a long time, that we were able to quickly cater to the needs and change things, that was successful at a time when you didn't have high inflation, you didn't have all the choices that are available now. And so we have to be more nimble and adapt. Social events are a priority for members. That's key. And the coordination between the food and beverage and recreation departments will benefit the association with banquets and lounge activity. And we're seeing that. We're seeing, as after this COVID pandemic, that people are coming out, they want to socialize again. And I think going forward, that is an area that we're going to need to focus on to be successful. Now, this isn't just the board and members. Management also needs to focus on food consistency and the training of staff. You should be able to order a steak on Monday and how it tastes and it's presented should be the same that you get next week on a Friday or Thursday. And that's an area that we need to work with training the back of the house staff on consistency, the quality, and also with the front. How are we servicing the member? How can we make that experience great for the member that's coming to the restaurant or lounge? And that is something we are working on. We'll continue to work on. And I think a key point is the member developing a master plan that will set the vision for amenities within Sun Lakes. This is something that I've talked to, First Service has talked to the boards of the past about identifying who we are. What are we? And it's key that we need to identify that. I think, my opinion only, is that we are a social club. We want to be together with our friends, enjoying each other's company, having a nice drink, having a nice dinner, having some events through recreation and attending that. I think that's the key. And so we'll see as we develop that vision, that master plan, also with input from the analytic committee and the partnership with the board and First Service. I think it's critical that relationship work well. And so again, I hope that I was able to help. Again, many members sometimes forget. Maybe you're new. You've moved in here within the last 2-3 years, and you don't realize that that there are impacts from COVID. Again, increased competition, disposable income decline, and as well as past decisions made by the board that affect the restaurant even today. And so I hope this is able to enlighten the membership. Again, I ask if you have any questions regarding this presentation or anything, please feel free to use the message to management. That way you can send that message via our website or, of course, the box at the front desk at the main clubhouse. Again, now back to our regularly scheduled programming. Thank you. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, this is the administration update for the month of March with Jason Ewalls and Christopher Mitchell. Also, make sure you look for the food and beverage. They're doing some Luck of the Irish specials for St. Paddy's Day. And wishing you members a little luck of the Irish. Bye-bye.